Thank you, Madame Veuve, for all you do in the name of English sparkling wine.
I think we say hashtag women in STEM. Veuve Clicquot.
Hello and welcome to Green Queens.
Welcome to Green Queens, to this rather unusual setup. It all feels a little bit silly.
We were like, is it too sexy if we sit on the bed? And then we very quickly realised it wasn't. It's just fun. It feels like having a sleepover.
It does feel like we're having a sleepover, but we also have to, sit quite neatly because it's very easy to settle into sort of double chin kind of like sloth mode.
And to anybody that is just purely listening to this, Imogen and I have come on a school trip, that we like to call it, to Chichester, or near Chichester.
Chichester,
Sussex?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I just had to say, are we in Sussex or sorry?
West Sussex.
We're in West Sussex because we are at an English sparkling wine vineyard, and this episode with the lovely family that own the vineyard will be probably out by now already, will it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So last week's episode will be a lovely interview with the owners of the Tinwood Wine Estate.
But while we were here, we were like, well, shall we just record another?
Yeah, well, why not? When in Rome, and so lovely to be able to do it in person.
Lovely to be able to do it in person. And yeah, also to any listeners, we are doing it sat on the bed that we're going to be spending the night in tonight. Because we were like, do we do it outside? Do we do it at the sofa, at the table? The bed. It was the bed or the bath.
There's room for both of us, and we get this sensational view of the vineyard here in West Sussex, near Chichester.
In the name of investigative journalism. Here we are, darlings, here we are. And on that note, we do have a bottle of English sparkling wine to open.
Shall we open it? Do you want to do the honours?
Okay.
Should I hold your mic?
Hold my mic.
I'm going to hold your mic to the sound of the pop.
With dramatic effect.
For some proper ASMR here.
I mean, I was going to say for our first glass of the day, but...
It's not. Who are we kidding? It's our third. It's our fourth.
It's our fourth glass. It's 3:45 on a Wednesday afternoon, and this is our fourth glass of English sparkling wine today, and I'm butchering opening it. What do we do here? Is there an art to this?
You're doing it perfectly. I mean,
I'm really not. Veuve Clicquot is shaking in her boots, isn't she?
Shall I tell the fun fact about Veuve Clicquot? Oh my goodness. Okay, so as many people will know, producing wine involves various processes of fermentation, involves various amounts of yeast. I mean, you have butchered that. Abby has removed all of the label in her haste to get into that bottle. But yes, so in order to remove the yeast that happens during the fermentation process, Madame Veuve Clicquot invented the process of turning the bottles such that you didn't have to drink the wine with yeast in it.
The science.
Yeah.
So thank you, Madame Veuve, for all you do in the name of English sparkling wine.
I think we say hashtag women in STEM. Veuve Clicquot.
Oh dear. Hashtag investigative journalism. Oh, I'm sorry. Look at the way I'm holding this bottle.
No one's judging you. You are doing this on camera, but we are all watching.
There is an art to it, and I did used to be. I was actually a waitress for many years, but I think you're meant to do it from the bottom. But
Ellie Flynn, amazing investigative journalist at Channel 4.
Yeah, proper journalist. Yeah.
I hope that we get a good review from her for this very important task that we are endeavouring to
there's got to be like an investigative journalism award at BAFTA that we could be nominated for this. Listen to that. Oh, that is a good sound.
Sound of promise.
Bit slosh. Save the slosh.
Slightly sticky hand there.
Sorry, I'll have that one. Sorry. Right. Cheers.
Oh! Okay, have you got enough hands there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You grab yours and then we'll do a little cheers.
Cheers!
Cheers!
To the podcast.
To the podcast.
To
the
working
lovely
hard.
listeners.
Yeah, thank you.
Delightful. Well,
really nice. This is the Blanc de Blanc, which is really fun to say.
It's incredibly fun to say, but it also just, when we had the explanation from the wine people, aka the smelliers, they, gave a wonderful explanation. Then we were there being like, do you want the Blanc de Blanc, Abby?
Blanc de Blanc or rosé?
Well, I'm glad we have gone for this Blanc de Blanc.
Blanc de Blanc divine.
Perfect with the salmon, they told us.
Yeah, I mean, it is actually really quite bizarre to be sat in England looking out at a vineyard in the sunshine, like you say, lavender I really feel like I'm in France.
So, should we just give a bit of an overview of what we're going to do today?
What are we going to do today?
Well, I've written some extensive notes here.
This is the least prepared we've ever been for a podcast.
Which, I mean, it's I'm enjoying how unhinged this is. And certainly from my preparation perspective, I'm really fine.
How are you feeling?
I mean, apprehensive, but I have written some bullet points.
Go on.
And do you want to know what's on the list?
Yeah.
Where are we? Where we are.
Are they not the same?
I think I just read my own handwriting really badly. What been up to? Didn't even put what have we been up to. What been up to? Background on general jobs. Road trip to Portugal, which is factually incorrect because that will be a train trip to Portugal.
Yeah.
And then Jess, underlined and circled.
Yeah. I love the who are we? What we are.
What even are we? Don't even know. But I think we've covered where we are. Where are we?
Well, yeah, that's fine. So we are in Sussex and we drove down here in an ID bus, VW ID bus, which is so cool and so spacious and made you look minuscule.
Honestly, so VW very, very kindly lent me that ID bus. It is quite an expensive car. I should caveat that. Mm-hmm. It has a massive great big battery. It's 90 kilowatt hours, which is big. But I went to Devon with my family for the weekend. We had 2 dogs in there. We had all the stuff. We were camping. We had all the food. It was spacious. It was so perfect. Yeah. So perfect. And today we have an inordinate amount of podcast kit. Chris, you, me, all our stuff.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. You feel like a teeny tiny person.
I know. You look so tiny, like your little feet on the pedal. It was actually adorable to watch. Like the bus driver with your massive steering wheel. But no, it was lovely. Very nice drive. Very enjoyable. And I was impressed. 280 mile range.
Yeah. Yeah. Which actually, if you're doing a 3-hour trip, which we did today, you do not need to stop. And then you've still got that 50-mile buffer to go and find a charging place if you don't have destination charging. But here at Timwood, destination charging. No charging stops for us.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
So on to point 2. Who are we, or who we are? Or
what have we been up to?
What have we been up to? No, I think that's a nice one.
Yeah, what have you been up to?
Well, I feel like I did have a holiday. Because we did some podcasts from Cornwall, which was lovely. It was lovely, but I think that's the most desperate I've ever felt for a holiday.
Yes.
And then interestingly, the other day it popped up, it was like the 27th of May or something, and it was a year since I announced that I was leaving my full-time weather job at the BBC. And I was like, interesting, that's flown for one. And I feel like having a full year as a freelancer and out of a structured annual leave, staff job, this is my rota, this is what my life looks like, kind of typical-ish routine, not typical because my day used to start at 3:30 in the morning, but it's obviously been so much for me to take in this last year of a complete shift. Like, it's been totally thrusting myself out of my comfort zone. And clearly that had caught up with me. Even though I have had time off and I have still been on holiday and stuff, it's been pretty full on in a really good way. I've had the best year and it was very much what I needed, I think, to go freelance. But I think it's taught me that even though I am freelance, I still need to prioritise, like, putting an out of office on and, saying no a little bit. Which is scary.
100%, because I think, and I've been freelance before, lots of former colleagues who've gone freelance, lots of friends who've gone freelance, and the year isn't consistent.
No.
And you need that year, or probably 2 years, to understand where the peaks and troughs come in the year. And knowing that, like, if you've got a quiet period, it won't be quiet for the rest of time. And then trusting that, like, when work comes in, you can say no to things because it will be fine.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of time to get comfortable with that.
Yeah, and I think, like, I think it was kind of post-Berlin, which I spoke to you about, Ocean Conference, that sort of stuff, which is a really cool last-minute opportunity that came in for me. But it was, again, super out of my comfort zone, different country, different language, topic that I don't actually know that much about when it comes to the ocean. And I think when you do stuff for social media, people assume, like, oh, my God, that's so cool and so fun. And, like, darling, here we are drinking English sparkling wine on a Wednesday afternoon. It's not always super hard work, and obviously people see this side of it, chin chin babe, and they think, wow, that's amazing, I would love to do that. And that was me and has been me in the past, and now this is what I do, and oh my goodness, how flipping fortunate we are to be able to come and do these sorts of things. Definitely don't take that for granted. But when you work in social media, it's a strange one. I obviously do think other things as well, podcasting, broadcasting, still a lot of work with the BBC, but when I do stuff on my own social media platforms and I'm working with a brand or a company or whatever, there's so much expectation on you as one single person to be the expert, to be the scriptwriter, the researcher, the person that records everything, the producer, the presenter, then the editor, and then the person that gets everything right in terms of analytics. And you're literally kind of 10 people in one. And I think that's a part of the industry that nobody really understands until you're in it and doing it. And it wasn't until literally a couple of days ago, a collaboration opportunity came in for me, and this document was like a 2-page thing, and one big chunk of it was what is kind of expected from me as the creator, and it listed like 10 jobs. We expect you to do all these things. Of course, that is what being the creator is in terms of social media, but literally seeing it written in front of me, I was like, this makes so much sense as to why I'm so overwhelmed, because that's a lot of pressure. And I think the longer I do it and the more I feel comfortable and find my feet and stuff, the better I will feel and the more comfortable I will get. But it just has felt a bit intense recently. I felt the pressure.
Yeah, and I guess a question to you then, because it has been really busy, and like we've been friends for a while. I've seen this year totally ramp up for you. What is it about it that you love? And what is it that if you could employ a mini Abby to help you out with, what would you get them to do?
Good question. I love like at that Ocean conference, I love learning new information. I love meeting people and speaking to people and understanding new stuff. And I love the concept and the idea of then passing that information on and almost having that conversation with, however many other people that I can through social media. But I think it's almost got so muddy and messy now with analytics and with algorithms and with, what's your hook? How are you going to hook people in? Like, it's a different landscape now to what it used to be. It used to be, if you had something really cool to talk about, people would be interested and they would listen. Now it's like, if you're not gripping them in the first 3 seconds, you may as well not make the other 57 seconds. And I think then also when there's money that's transacted, that's difficult, because then with money comes an expectation, and then you are having to say, this is how this post performed. Like in a magazine, for example, if I don't know, L'Oreal paid £10,000 to put an advert in a magazine, they wouldn't know how many sales they had from that, because there's no way of knowing. But with social media, the analytics, it's literally black and white, and it's so, that there's maybe an expectation from people, and then you send them how it did or how it delivered, and I just constantly feel as though I'm disappointing everyone, which is mad. And I think that's where the element of, obviously when you work in the BBC or we do this together or various different places, you're part of a team, and so also not everything is done for figures. Everything, public service broadcasting is important information that the public need because they're paying a license fee. So it's not so much done on figures and values and targets and stats, whereas social media is the complete opposite of that. And so I think doing that with money by myself, I just feel I've had a bit of imposter syndrome.
Which is so amazing to me, because I look at everything that you do and everything that you post, I'm like, that's my friend Abby. Like, I'm so bubbling, pun intended, with pride. And like, I love it when you go out and you go to things like the Ocean Race Conference and you're able to sort of distill it down, and I'm like, great, I learned. I honestly have substituted most of my weather for you. For me. But I think that sort of goes to show that when social media is the output, that's what most people see. It's very rare for people to see the ins and outs of what goes on behind the scenes, and it's a lot, and it's not glamorous. And I think, I felt quite a lot of guilt about the fact that we're doing this on a Wednesday afternoon, looking at this beautiful view, having this beautiful English sparkling wine, but you've got to take the positives, or like take the lovely bits of the job to kind of, balance out some of the bits where it can feel quite isolating.
And like, there is no off switch as well. Like if you've, you know, at the moment I'm kind of working out how long things take me, and okay, so they want 4 videos, okay, let's charge them roughly this much money because I think it's going to take me 2 days, and then oh no, it's taking me 8 days, and that's actually not, you know, not a good return on investment. But regardless of how, there's nobody to be like, oh, I'm really chatted today, can you just finish that edit? You know, you kind of just have to do it all yourself. I will caveat this by saying pretty much everybody that I've worked with since I went freelance is so lovely, and nobody has actually made me feel this way. I've just really got in my own head recently, and I don't really know what it is, but I just felt like it was quite a nice thing to maybe talk about. I think the media industry in general is such a bizarre place, and so few people talk about what it's like. And also the weird thing I've noticed is since I've started being able to monetize my social media, I've almost not been myself as much on it. I think weirdly, now that there's the expectation and brands are looking, I'm like, oh, they won't want to see me without my makeup on, and you know, I'm where I just used to be like hello and very normal on there, and I'm annoyed at myself for that. So I think I just need to touch some grass and, you know, lie within the grapes and maybe have a bit more English sparkling wine and realise it's not that deep.
It isn't that deep. And you know, so I went back to my old school recently, and oh, you're gonna really laugh at this. It was for the former heads and deputy heads of school dinner. Okay. And I sat next to the new headmaster, and it was really fun because I was like,
look how well I'm doing. Look how amazing I am.
No, I was like, oh my God, it's actually been a little while since I've been at school. I want to interview him and find out like what it must be like to be an educator and responsible for these 1,000 children or young people in a world where there is so much social media.
Wow, imagine growing up now.
Oh, and it was, honestly, we had this fascinating conversation because he was like, I was like, you know, everybody can access so much information outside of the classroom. So your role as educators has to be more, presumably, how do you get people to understand how to understand that information, and be curious about that information and be committed to continually learning, and also be curious beyond the kind of very, very short form content, and use that short form content that can give you a snapshot of something to then open up the, you know,
the curiosity and well, I'm really interested in that tiny thing, so let's now spend a bit more time.
Exactly. And what he said, he was like, you know, there are so many aspects of this which are deeply, deeply intimidating. They, like every school at the moment, has challenges with social media, challenges with misogyny, etc., etc. But he was like, but the other opportunity that it presents, and this is interesting because you sort of alluded to this, is that actually it can afford people this lifelong love of learning new stuff, because that no longer has to stop when you finish school. You can continue learning about any subject. And I was like, oh my God, that so resonates with me, because my job now, the best thing about it is that I get to learn something every day and be totally unhindered by the fact that there's going to be an exam on it, because there is no exam. No. It's just a love of learning.
You would love if there was an exam at the end of every day, wouldn't you?
I'd love if there was a quiz. And I'd love if I didn't have to put it on a CV and I didn't need to revise. But yeah, I would be there. Like, go on, quiz me. And oh my God, I meant to text you this. I promise you this. It's not really related at all, but we've had some champagne. Deep and I went away to Devon, and we're in this little pool, and I found some goggles on the side. I put them on, obviously looked like a complete dork, and was like, Deep, I'll be able to go so much faster now. Look how fast I can go. Go on, time me. And it's like, oh my God, why is it like hanging out with a child?
Yeah, it is. I'm a little bit apprehensive about, like, we have a week travelling around Europe together. Yes. And I'm like, what kind of person am I doing this with?
Well, so this is going to be interesting, and perhaps this is a perfect segue. Okay. Because in just 2 weeks,
this is stressing me out.
Yeah,
it's really soon. As of actually when this podcast goes out, it will be 2 days away.
Yeah. So we are trying to get to our friend Jess's wedding. Yeah. Should we just pause on Jess for a second? Okay, hang on. I'll finish that thought. We're trying to get Jess's wedding in as low carbon way as we possibly can.
Yeah, Jess lives in Portugal. She's getting married in Portugal, and she did put on the invite, if you can get here without flying, like, you'll be basically the best wedding guest. And so we were like, challenge accepted. We'll see you there with bells and whistles.
And the thing is, so little context on Jess. So Jess, if you're listening,
hey,
hi, Jess! Oh my God, we're so excited about your wedding. It's so exciting.
So excited.
So she's getting married to Jack, her fiance, on the 21st of June. So summer solstice.
Yeah.
Which is like true
very
Jess
magical
fashion.
Yeah.
Jess and her betrothed and her business partner, they have an organisation called Carbon Jacked, which is all about trying to make sustainability more fun. I think their tagline is, because saving the planet doesn't have to be boring.
Yeah.
But she's also a presenter. She does lots of sports stuff, but lots of sustainability stuff as well. Yeah. She also, because she's an incredibly busy person, has a network of women in sustainability called Second Nature Sisters.
Yeah, which is brilliant. And also that's a really good way. They put out jobs all the time.
Yes.
Because I think if you are slightly interested in this industry and you want to work in it in some way, it's impossible to know how to get in. I think you would automatically go through the typical routes. Second Nature Sisters put out jobs all the time of loads of different organisations and companies that have like a bit of an interest in sustainability and therefore are advertising roles. And that's a really, really good way of knowing what's about. But also they do like meetups. She was in Australia with some friends not that long ago because saw it on social media. And she did a Second Nature Sisters meetup in Australia.
Yeah.
So it's global, the community. It's amazing. And yeah, just people that have like similar interests, want to get outside, want to spend time in nature, are interested in sustainability, meet up, but also can chat about nice things that they find in common and find jobs and find work and find people and find communities through it.
And share ideas and all the rest of it. And like, she's so impressive. And she was in Sydney because she'd been in China commentating on the World Athletics
for the BBC. Incredible. She was showing me, I am such a nerd when it comes to anything to do with media. Like if I quite often get asked, if you weren't a presenter, what would you do? I'd still work in the media industry, 110%. I'd be behind the scenes, I'd be producing, I'd be researching, I'd be doing anything because I find it so fascinating. I'd be Chris. I'd have Chris Cam on right now.
Hey Chris!
Here he is. But I'm fascinated by the whole setup, and she did this whole tour around the commentary booth in China, and I was like, that looks so cool, because it's a side of the media industry I've never seen myself. And I think like commentating or presenting or broadcasting on location is so impressive because you don't have all the mod cons of the studio.
Yeah.
You don't have the lighting and all the tech and everything that comes with it. You have to just set up this remote thing.
And she was commentating the relays, so like 40 to 50 seconds.
Fast.
So fast, and like communicate something of value. And I know that if that was me, I'd be like, they're going fast. Well done, everyone.
I've thought about this in the past because there are so few female voices in commentary, and therefore I think there is quite a lot of interest from broadcasters and employers and things to try and get more female voices in it. So I've toyed with the idea. Could I? I could not.
No.
I just would panic. And also I get very excited in the moment and just want to watch it.
So I have a theory about this. What I would love, so way back when, about 10 years ago, I entered the Jaguar Land Rover Fantasy League football team. Football, whatever. Jaguar Land Rover Fantasy League football.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Had a team called Victoria's Secret. And I did very well. I did really well. And honestly, there were people being like, who is this Victoria's Secret? And I was like, that is I.
That is the best name.
Yeah. And I got really into it at the time. And like, because, you can like choose whatever best players you like. And I would watch football quite actively at that time. And what I wanted was basically this. Like, imagine if we were watching football, having a chat.
Like, he's kicked the ball. Go, babe, go. Looking great. Love that top. Looking great, but nobody would know the score.
And also, then we could carry on talking about other things that have been going on that week. So I want the like halfway mix between commentary and like general chit chat, news. Oh
my god, I want to do this. I really tried to come up with some sort of pun, but I couldn't. Fun and tree. No.
We will return to this. Like something that kind of exists at the cross section of like commentary, gossip, news, chit chat. Okay. Chris, any thoughts?
We're putting it out to the listeners.
Oh yeah.
Hun and tree. No.
Sip and kick.
That is horrendous.
I know.
Take that back.
I'm
Take
so
that
upset.
back.
I like as the words were leaving my mouth, I was like, stop.
We need a name for it where we could like invite people in and be like, come, because I went to the Baller League with Cupra recently.
Yes. Oh my gosh, tell me about that.
It was really fun, really fun. So Cupra sponsored the Baller League. Don't know, still couldn't really tell you what it is. It's just football, but like they play it in half-hour sections, and it's very American. It was indoors in Stratford somewhere.
And 6-a-side, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not? Didn't count. But they had great tops, and it was very exciting. There was lots of lighting, and it was very like American. 3 minutes before the end of, I think it was 3 minutes before the end of each match, they were like, I can't remember what they called it. It was like some sort of, they paused the game and they were like, it's time for like the Wicked Wango card, like that. Not that, but sort of that in Friends. And they did like this lucky dip. I'm so butchering it. If anybody from the Baller League is listening, I'm so sorry.
Sorry, Cooper.
But I actually really enjoyed it. I was so in. I was sat front row. Everybody else was kind of milling back, having a drink and some food, and I was like, so they did this thing where they rolled a dice, essentially. They didn't, but anyway. And whatever came up for the last 3 minutes of the game, whether it was like one-on-one. So sometimes all the players disappeared and then it was just one-on-one for the last 3 minutes. Yeah. Sometimes it was like free kicks. Is that a thing? I don't really know. They just did different things for the last 3 minutes of the game, and it was so fun. And they were like, 3, 2, and everyone was like, yeah. It was such a vibe. Couldn't tell you who played, what happened. Bloody loved it. I could have commentated on that.
That is so good. And like, so I read something fairly recently, and this is where, you know, these notes are not sufficient, frankly, because I'd have got the article and sourced it correctly. But there's like a phenomenal link between watching live sport and feeling part of a crowd, and the impact that can have on your mental health for the better.
Interesting.
But really interesting that you say that, because I have a theory about how football, and I realise we are venturing into territory that
is not green or queenie.
Not green or queen, and that we really have no authority to speak about whatsoever. But that extra half an hour is a real ball ache. Like, you know, they've just played 90 minutes, and then you're like, oh, all right, you're going to play another half an hour and see what happens. Oh, let's see what happens. So I think what they should do is, in that half an hour, actually, there's 11 players on the pitch, so let's call it 22 minutes.
Yeah.
Every 2 minutes, a player comes off the pitch.
Ooh.
So then you can have loads of strategy around like, oh, well, how do you rank your players? Which players do you bring off? Blah, 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 blah. Until, you know, the worst outcome would be, or like maybe the best outcome from a viewer perspective, is that it ends up one-on-one. And that's how you should do the extra time, is 22 minutes.
Yeah. Well, we should go watch the Baller League, because it was really good. So it's like, I mean, to be fair, it was hours long. Yeah. When we arrived at like maybe 5:30, they were like, yeah, it finishes at 11. I was like, excuse me. Sorry, what? But I was so into it. I was so into it that I was wearing one of those satin midi skirts, because I didn't know what to wear, did I? But I think I nailed the outfit. I wore a trainer. I felt like that was a good vibe over the cowboy boots. But I was so into it, and there were those awful plastic chairs that by the end of the night I stood up and the satin midi skirt was so creased, because in my excitement I'd obviously been
stuck.
Well, and a bit of that. Up the arse, in the crease.
Oh God.
Sorry, Chris. No, but you know when you're just really enjoying something, and then I stood up and was like, well, that's not a vibe. But it was good. It's good.
Oh, I'm so glad. I mean, also they need to have it in a more central location, because it was somewhere in Stratford, which is fine. On the Olympic Park. I mean, good use of the Olympic Park.
Yeah. It's a more central location. I travel from Leeds.
Yeah. Well, so
anyway, on that,
we said about Jess.
Yeah. So we got talking about Jess, who is just a queen and green and is getting married.
And we wanted to get her onto this podcast before we were going to her wedding. But she is so busy, as we've just described, and then also planning a wedding at the same time. Yeah. Also buying a house in Portugal, all the rest of it. Really, really, really busy. But we want to kind of, I guess, do her the honour of trying to get there in a zero carbon way.
It would be rude if we didn't. So we are partnering with Interrail, which is mega and very exciting. And they exciting. We had a Zoom call with 2 of the girls that worked there, and they were so excited for us to do this as well. We have since obviously had Juliet Kinsman on the podcast, who has said, girls, getting to Portugal by train is actually not the easiest thing in the world.
Getting to Spain, fine.
Yes. Portugal. Different ball game. And I do pride myself on being an exceptional planner of a trip.
I just want to pause on this for a second, because what is so brilliant about being friends with you is that you will go on holiday. I know that holiday that you go on will be exceptionally well planned.
Yeah.
Your recommendations will be extremely extensive. All of them will be sensational.
How many pages of notes did I send you for Cornwall?
4 pages of notes for Cornwall. And then at that point I had to be like, I'm really sorry, Abby, I'm actually going to Devon.
I was like, wait, I've got a Devon one.
But then, like, you know, it's so extensive and so comprehensive that I'm like, Deep, we should go to Cornwall for August Bank Holiday weekend.
Yes, please.
So you have been in your absolute element with this, because obviously we want to do this via train, which is quite complicated, but also along the way stay in the most eco places that we can
as possible. It's difficult with hotels, isn't it? Especially when you are moving around, because we're only ever going to be staying in a hotel for one night, really en route. I looked at doing somewhere for 2, but it just doesn't work. When we get to Portugal, to the wedding location, we will obviously stay somewhere for a little bit longer. So inevitably, everything is going to have an impact, but the impact of getting the train and staying in a few hotels versus flying is still astronomically lower.
Yeah.
Do you need a Ted Toppington?
Little top up. Yeah, that'd be great.
The Dewhurst household call it a Ted Toppington.
A Ted Toppington. Oh.
And you'll appreciate that.
Yes. Because of Ted the dog. Old lady Ted. She's so old. Oh, thank you very much. What can you hear the bubbles? Can you hear the bubbles? Oh, Chris is giving the nod. You can hear the bubbles on the mic. Sound of joy.
Cheers.
But what I think is quite curious about this, because very acutely aware that we're saying, oh, we're going to a destination wedding on the train, we're holy as thou. It is a bit holy as thou, because we have the benefit of A, partnering with Interrail to do so.
Yep.
So B, we can incorporate this into our work. And also, you know, we don't have children. We can have that slight freedom and flexibility.
Yeah.
But there are going to be some compromises along the way, and I think we really want to explore what some of those are.
I think the way I was really thinking about how I can phrase this. I feel like it's going to be a magnificent nuisance, because I feel like it's going to be incredible and we're going to have such a good time. Fast forward a couple of weeks, we'll be like, it was hell on earth.
The podcast is now over. We've gone our separate ways.
This is so funny, literally. No, I do. I feel like also just looking at some of the places that we're going to pass through, obviously I'm like, wow, there's not many hotels here, because it's so remote and it's like a mountainous part of Spain that I would never have gone to. And I'm thinking, regardless of whether we stop here or we just pass through here, it's still going to be beautiful. So I feel like we're going to see parts of the world that we probably wouldn't have seen if it weren't for this. So it is going to be magnificent. But yes, it is.
It makes it more complicated.
It definitely makes it more complicated. However, nothing that is worth doing in life is easy.
Yeah.
And I actually really do enjoy the process of plotting and planning, and give me a challenge like this and I will come through. And hopefully, if more people do this sort of thing, what I would love if somebody, the guys at Interrail said, somebody has done this to Portugal, we'll send you their itinerary. It's not quite where we're going in Portugal, so it doesn't quite work. But that, to be able to rinse and repeat, like copy and paste, you know, if you want to get to Portugal by train and we do it and it kind of works, you can literally copy and paste what we do.
Oh, and I mean, I already do that with your holidays. Like, looked up 3 Mile Beach, was like, well, sadly it's booked over August Bank Holiday, but, you know, another time. And what was also really cool about Interrail's advice is that they were like, okay, yes, you could do the obvious cities like Barcelona, Madrid, whatever. Yeah. But they were like, we'd really recommend that you take the path slightly less travelled and really try and engage in like some different cities. And I think the other thing is, like, if we weren't doing this challenge, which fully recognise not everyone has the benefit of like being able to just take a week off and to take it a little slower, but it would have been like, oh, what's the latest flight that we can get on Friday night, and then the latest night flight that we can get on Sunday night, and it'd be in and out. And like, whilst obviously where the wedding is would be beautiful,
we would not switch off.
And also it could have been in like Bognor Regis, and you know, Bognor Regis on a nice day. And even though we haven't yet done this journey, we've got another destination wedding in September in Spain, and we've been planning like, oh, let's take a week off in midsummer. And I was like, no, let's not have a week off midsummer. Let's take a week off just before the wedding, and we'll try and do the same thing. Make it like a slow meandering journey, then that's not 2 flights, it's only 1 trip, etc., etc. So I think even getting into the mindset of like, let's do this differently.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, we're taking a week to do this essentially, which is no more annual leave than most people would take for a holiday. The difference is we're not flying there, getting there and sitting by a pool or sitting by the beach for the week. We're like exploring. We're using the journey as the destination, darling.
I also we were chatting about this morning, like I think both of our husbands experiencing how they are descending the pecking order.
Well, because we've interviewed Wimbledon for this podcast, which is so fun. And
will that have come out? It will be next week's episode.
Yeah. And therefore we will be going to Wimbledon very soon. And when I said to my husband Jake, I think I'm going to be working at Wimbledon this year as well, which is very exciting. I have done the last couple of years, but don't get to watch much tennis when I'm actually working there, ironically. So wonderful Hattie has very kindly said, girls, come to Wimbledon, I can get you some tickets. And so I said to Jake, Imogen and I got tickets to Wimbledon. And he was like, sorry. Also, here we are drinking English sparkling wine on a Wednesday afternoon in Sussex. He was like, does Imogen get all the good things now? I said, yes, she does. Yeah. So get used to it. And also Deep this morning was heartbreakingly telling me how the pecking order is now me, fully charged. No, Green Queens.
It was, well, you and Green Queens same
on
level.
Par.
Yeah, like you were one and the same.
Yeah, we are the same. And then Ted the dog, and then yoga teacher training.
Yep.
And then husband.
Oh, I feel really bad. And like I've had an inquiry recently about a safari in Namibia.
Yes, I'll come.
Well, yes, I need to talk to you about this. And we'll get your diary out. And it's like completely sustainable. It's like this electric boat that's like this huge conservation thing. And
that's cool.
Oh, it's amazing. And like, to be honest, that's as far as I know about it so far. And I need to do my due diligence and all the rest of it. But like, they got in touch and I was like, are you getting in touch with me because of Fully Charged Show, Green Queens, or just me?
Yeah.
Just me.
Yeah.
And I said to Deep, I was like, hopefully it's the third thing.
It was not.
It was not.
No.
Which, that is...
I will say, do you know what? We probably should dedicate a whole episode, if not more, to our husbands, because we have chaotic lives and it really wouldn't be possible without them.
Well, I think...
Should we get them on?
Well, I think we definitely should get them on. And actually, I think when we see each other on the 24th of July, when we come up to Yorkshire...
Yeah.
Maybe we should make them do a podcast.
Oh, God.
I mean, they both work in the space. Like, Jake, your husband, he works for Osprey Charging Network. Deep is on a mission at the moment to find as part of like Oxford Science Enterprises, he's looking at a new battery tech startup and clean energy related stuff. They're in the space. They're in the space.
However, I feel like more so just to be our support network, that would be interesting to find out.
Nepo husbands over there.
No, I do think that would be fun.
Yeah, I think it would be
fun. We should get the boys on. And if they're not up for it, which they should be, they will be.
And I think it is just sort of worth sort of saying that, like, one of the comments that I get from a lot of my friends sort of who see the stuff that I'm doing with Fully Charged Show, with Green Queens, with whatever, is like how my logistics is quite complicated, and within a week I'll be here, there and everywhere.
Stretch my legs.
That
feels good.
I think what that does mean is like Deep has to put up with a lot of time when I'm away, and just like a lot of like dealing with the stuff that goes with living in a house.
Yeah.
And I'm really aware of that.
Yeah.
So.
And there is a lot of that. Like, what a mental load. That's what I think a lot of people refer to it as. But so Jake has worked away for years. He's been in London 2 nights a week.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
Yeah. So I've been there like taking myself off to bed, shuffling around the house in my dressing gown by myself. And I know it's very much like woe is me. Very still fortunate to be in a nice relationship.
It's hard.
It's just different, isn't it? So I'm now, like this week, he's only in London one night and I'm away for 2 because I stayed at yours last night. And he was like, when are you home? I said Thursday. He went, oh, I'm home Wednesday. I said, oh, well, sorry, but I had to cook for myself and clean the house and put the washing on when you were in London all those times. So now you can do the same.
Well, so I worked out the other day. So we lived in our house for like 2.5 years.
This is going to stress me out. I feel like you're going to say how little you've been there.
Well, I've only spent 3 nights in that house on my own.
Stop.
Because I'm just away more than Deep is. And often we're away at the same time.
What do you do on those nights?
Well, so I kind of like get a bit overwhelmed because I'm like, how am I going to maximize?
This needs to be the most fun night. Yeah.
So this is a few weeks ago, and I got back from, don't know if I've mentioned, but I'm doing my yoga teacher training.
You once or twice. We're going to go do a downward facing dog in a minute.
We better do, and I need to give you some adequate instructions about how to relax the muscles at the base of your neck.
Oh.
Is parallel with your anyway. So I like kind of panicked because I'm like, I really need to make this count, and actually I'm very bad at watching films on my own because
like, I just get so distracted.
Yeah, and I'm like, there's always a job to do. I got really, really into interior design masters, which actually is really good from a sustainability perspective.
Is it?
Yeah, and like obviously I'm fairly sure that the BBC has partnered with a like more sustainable paint company, so that's bonus number 1. But the people on it are so good at repurposing stuff into other stuff. And they're so creative. And I think it's so inspirational of like, if anyone is doing any kind of renovation to their home, of like just being a bit savvier with your money, being a bit more sustainable and reusing stuff. It's really good.
Like, you know, I follow lots of interior design accounts or home renovation accounts on Instagram and stuff, but I've started unfollowing a few because sometimes you're like, I don't have millions of pounds, so as gorgeous as that kitchen is, I'm probably never going to be able to afford it. So actually, when you do, we are just finishing a massive 4-year renovation that has been painstaking and bloody expensive, and doing it from like a real life perspective of sort of trying to make ends meet, you do have to repurpose things. You do have to be like, okay, well, I don't love this kitchen and that thing's broken, but can we make it work? Can we spruce it up? Because I can't afford a new kitchen. And so, you know, those shows and those people that talk about it in a bit more of a like upcycly way, it also makes sense because you don't need new everything. I think sometimes you're like, oh, it's not to my taste, so let's rip it out and redo. Nobody can afford to do that. You've got to patch and make things work realistically.
Well, this is it. And you know, ultimately, sorry, that was glass on button, which was causing Chris some distress there. I'm very sorry. But ultimately, like, you know, it's BBC, and therefore the money isn't super abundant.
Is it not? Anybody would think I've been earning hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Have you not?
No, I have not.
Goodness me.
I have bloody not.
But also like that, the limiting of the budget, of course, at the end of the day, it's a competition, it's a game show. It has to have that degree of jeopardy and drama.
Yeah.
So in being constrained by the budget, they are also forced, by virtue of that, to be more sustainable as well.
Yeah. They often go hand in hand, don't they? You do often find that. Oh, maybe we should look into that and see if we can get somebody from Interior Design Masters on the pod.
Well, someone who I have been thinking of, I've actually interviewed him before. He was a guest judge on this series. He's called Max McMurdo.
Oh, yeah. Heard of him?
Yeah, because he's like this incredible product designer, but he basically designed his house in a shipping container for under £50,000, and he is so creative with space. And like the thing that really struck me was like one of his not chandeliers, one of his lampshades was a jelly mold, a metal jelly mold.
So it's just, how fab!
Yeah, so honestly, so clever.
That's
so
the
I
kind of
think
thing that you would have in your house.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But we need to get him on because he just thinks about things in a really creative way and is so good at repurposing stuff. So
love that.
Max, if you're listening,
yeah.
I'll have you on the pod.
Please and thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this has been nice,
hasn't it? This is a bit of a change of change from our normal.
Bit of a change of pace.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have a little wine more often.
I think we should. And also, when this goes out, we will about to be embark on a train.
It's made me feel a bit sick. We've known about this for so long, and I've kind of done bits and bobs, haven't I, of sending you the odd thing, and then I've sort of taken my foot off the gas. And then Interrail the other day were like, you need to book some trains.
And we're like, oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's just, I think because the minute somebody says, oh, this is actually going to be quite complicated, I'm like, ugh, brain can't deal with that today.
Well, also, there's been lots of people who have been sort of interested. There's been quite a bit of corralling of effort.
Yeah, there has, yeah. But I feel like I mean, if 5 glasses of English sparkling wine are not the perfect pre-fuel to book a Portuguese train journey, quite frankly, I don't know what is.
I'm also doing, because we did say we absolutely need to sit down and sort this out. And I do think this will make us feel a little bit more willy-nilly about the budget.
Fuck it. Fuck it. Book the hotel.
Yeah.
Fuck the
Future us
husbands.
can worry about that.
That is a tomorrow me problem.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, we should probably get booking this journey that we're about to embark on. And we are obviously podcasting it all and documenting it all on social media. So if you're not following already, we do have TikTok, we have Instagram, personally, professionally. God save us, God save the pod, God save the king and queen. Not that we have one.
And but I think also maybe for anyone who has made it to this juncture in the podcast, thanks for sticking with us.
Thank you.
We know it didn't necessarily over-index on sustainability content.
No, but if you popped a bottle when we did, then you'd have had a bloody whale of a time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's it. See you next time.
See you next time. We've got half a bottle of English vodka to finish then. Cheers. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Green Queens. If you did and you'd like to hear more, we'd be so very grateful if you could like,
Subscribe and join the Green Group Chat for weekly episodes.